my addiction, I had a little bit of an obsession with doing all that. I mean, it felt like an addiction to me because I kept wanting to pursue things.
In the church, you mean, like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was trying to win the approval of my mom. This time it's my mom, because my dad at this time is in Philippines, and then in Saipan, I'm only living with my mom and my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I wanted to reach all these things and do all these things,
Of course, right.
and for her to just tell me, I'm proud of you. You know, I did like all of that. And because I lived with her for 12 to 19, so 7 years. So, because I already know that one parent is not going to be there for me. So, okay, I have another one to choose, you know, like to try to find love from.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously, that didn't really happen. A lot of, again, like blaming. And I get it because she hurt people.
Yeah.
And also, you can't give what you didn't get. And so I understand that later on. But yeah, I just was doing all these things, and people would compliment me like crazy with praises, like, you sing well, and I'm aware I do sing well and I do these things well.
Yeah.
But
you weren't getting it from the person you wanted.
Because I was in a band. I was also in theater, and I was casted in minor roles.
Wow,
like
a lot.
Yeah, if I was someone else's child, I'd be a star kid. That's what I've always said. Like, someone else would, like my mother-in-law, she would have been head over heels for like the things I'm doing, you know. It should try to show up at every single event. And that was the one thing that I remember that hurt me a lot was, and actually this goes into a little bit of the hurt. The church hurt is not necessarily the church. It's actually from family, from the brokenness of how my parents was in my mind, like representing how this all was. And so I just wanted her to show up. I didn't need her to be super mom. We weren't making a lot of money, and I'm aware of that, and I didn't care. You know, I always struggled with money, and it's not a big deal to me. But I just wanted her to show up in my shows, to show me that I'm here for you. But maybe she has attended one, but I don't remember any.
Yeah.
And they're free. Like, the tickets are free. And yeah, so it got harder, especially when you're a teenager. I see this now, working in the adolescents, in the inpatient psych. It's like all they're wanting is for their parents to listen to them, to really hear them out, and for them to show up. Those are the main things that's lacking in their life. And like, yeah, it's hard for me to not talk about it without crying, because like because it's still something that I crave for, and like what I feel hurt with, like with these kids, it's like all I wanted was for my mom to like show up and just to be there for me, because the world was getting darker and darker. But despite that, I also used like going to church a lot and staying in school for a long time to escape the darkness at the same time. Like, I wanted my mom, but I was also escaping her at the same time. Yeah. Because I would be in school till like 11 o'clock.
Wow. Jeez.
Because of the productions.
The productions and everything.
Not all the time, but she didn't really care much about like how long I stayed and whatever. I wasn't doing any bad things, and I was always in church, because anything, I wanted to be anywhere but home, because home, I
didn't feel like home.
No. Yeah. I felt like I'm gonna get in trouble for breathing. It felt that way. But despite that, God has brought other people in my life that would give that nurturing aspect that I'm not getting from my mom. So there's a key person in my life. I still see her until today. She's like my, mom. Not replacement, but like someone who
second mom.
Yeah, second mom. Someone who was able to give me what my biological mom is not able to give, And so she, her name is Girly, and she like saw the potential in me that I didn't, because I felt really insecure and didn't think I was good for anything. And so she saw that, and all she did was believe in me, and I'm like, oh wow, someone believes in me. Until this day, the reason why I continuously go with my desire to help others is because she helped me first, because she inspired me to be more than that, and so I told her one time, I was like, you know what, we're like Naomi and Ruth.
Good analogy.
Yeah. And so she was the key point in my life that showed me that there's still hope in the world. And at this point, like going back to, I think, how my view of God is, despite the chaos at home, since I felt so alone and I had no one to run to, and despite having like, Tita Girly in my life, I was still having that emptiness. And so naturally I went to God, because I was like, you know what, God is the one who can give us like what humans cannot give.
Yeah,
And so that's what I did. I didn't pray like normally, like where I kneel down and pray and talk to God. That's awkward to me, but I journaled a lot. A lot, and very vulnerably. Like I just write like, dear God. And that was the way I communicated with God and really developed that personal, close relationship with him.
Okay. So it sounds like you're pretty resilient, like going through like growing up, teenage years, like despite all that, it's like you still held on to that belief of God despite a father who hurt you and a mother who didn't really show you the love and affection, probably dealing with her own hurt from her husband. Were they still married or?
So Filipinos never get divorced.
Okay.
They were separated for a while, but they're back together, I guess. Like they're in California right now.
Okay, got you. Right. Yeah. So despite all of that, you were still pursuing God, doing all these things in the church, and you found someone in your life that can kind of help build that up inside of you. So what made you leave Saipan at 19 then and move to the US?
So remember my desire earlier of not wanting to be home?
Yeah.
That desire never stopped until I graduated. I was like, I am determined to live this place, because it was pure chaos. Because so at 18, I didn't know it then, but I had my first like mental breakdown. Basically, I was severely depressed, clinically, like classic symptoms of clinical depression. I nearly did not graduate, and I was just staying at home. I would wake up, just lay there, and church people were getting concerned, and they would try to peel me away. Because imagine the girl who's always there, the girl who's always active, singing out of nowhere. Where is she? So people were concerned, and and my mom didn't know how to handle that. And in fact, like, I don't know, I don't know how she handled. I didn't really like dig into that much, but I had my first mental breakdown, feeling depression, and the only reason why I got out of it was because when school told me that I couldn't graduate, I was like, I've got to graduate, because that's my only ticket way out. That was my determination. Wow. My goal was exactly to leave home, and for me, I was like, I gotta do absolutely everything I can to leave home, because I can't take this anymore. I can't. And I fundraised my ticket. Actually, I did a concert.
Oh, wow.
Because we didn't have money. So I'm used to like fundraising and, making my money that way. So I was like, there's one gift that God gave me. And I'm like, I can use it to fundraise so I can, go. And so fundraise and made enough money. And then I was able to go, and I left. And then my first stop was in Arizona to be a camp counselor. And then... Church.
Okay.
Yeah, because someone told me that's what they did, and it helps with tuition for Southwestern, and I didn't know anything about America, but for me, I didn't care. Like, I was 19, but like I said, my desire of wanting to leave was so strong that it didn't matter where I was, anywhere but home. Yeah. I remember telling myself, anywhere but home. Wow. And so, since I had my break, I started going downhill a little bit already, but I was still trying to kind of fake it till I make it with church. Okay. So trying to to look okay, appear okay. I wasn't. I was already engaging in a lot of self-destructive behaviors. I'm not gonna get into details with that. It wasn't like, thank goodness, like I was never attracted to drinking or smoking or doing drugs or anything like that, but I did other things were I was very ashamed of. But I just, when people do that, I realize now it's like we're trying to fill that void, And then during my mental break, that's when I started questioning. I was like, are you really there? Starting to ask God, like, if you're really there, like, why are you throwing all these things at me? Why does it seem like I'm your target?
That's a good question. Like, God, why does it seem like I'm your target? Wow.
Yeah. And I dared ask that question, but I didn't share it with anyone. That was in my journals. That's why I'm afraid people like reading my journals, because I ask difficult, like, questions that as Christians, as a good Adventist, shouldn't really ask, but I was like, I want the truth in my life, and I'm getting tired of this life, And I was like, basically that famous phrase, why God, why? I uttered those words and I meant it. Like, why? Like, why me? Out of all my other friends, and I was like constantly comparing myself to my other friends and like seeing that like their life was slightly a little bit better than mine, but that was bad to compare.
But
yeah, so I started questioning his existence.